Perfect.
Right. So hopefully you'll start to see it again. So this is the skill session, the video interview. Can you see that?
Certainly can.
Cool. Okay, so I'll just go through the instructions. So lights, camera, video interview. So first things first, if everyone is able to grab their phone and put it on video and turn it to selfie mode. So we are looking for people to practice doing a video interview. So practice makes perfect. So we want you to make a video recording of yourself right now answering the following question. Okay, so just give everyone a little bit of time. So the question that you need to answer on the video interviews is, tell me about yourself and why you want a career in technology. So if you can just read your answer out and record it, that would be great.
I hated this part of the interview.
Yeah, no one likes this part, but it's not too bad, is it, in the end? But
yeah, once you've done it the first time.
So I guess we'll just give maybe another minute or so.
Yeah, I'll give it another minute or so.
Another minute, yeah?
Yeah. Might be people practicing a couple of different takes, you know.
It's really tricky, actually. I tried to do this myself the other day and sort of holding your camera. It's much easier, actually, if you've got like a tripod, but yeah. I haven't got one, so it's a bit tricky.
This is definitely very different to how I did interviews when I was younger.
I know, yeah. I think it's definitely a different way of doing things, but once you get used to it, you know, I think the worst thing about going to face-to-face interviews is getting all flustered, getting lost on the way. And at least with these video interviews, you can actually do it from the comfort of your own home and be very composed while doing it, hopefully.
Absolutely. At least this, yeah, you're right. I suppose we'll go through that. We'll get a couple of takes.
That said, I had to do one for an apprenticeship, but I was away in Bali at the time.
Oh, look at you.
It was. I think it was a bit too casual and a bit too relaxed. Yeah, not for BT, but yeah. I have sort of a bit of a hatred of them. You know,
really.
I think people obviously just tend to do better in person anyway. So, yeah.
Oh.
So it's good that they're practicing.
Yeah, definitely. Practice really helps. Right, so hopefully everyone's had enough time now. So how did everybody find that? I'm not sure if everyone's able to answer, Max, or not, or
they should be.
Or they can pop in the chat.
Themselves. They can put it in the chat box, or even if they want to, they can unmute and speak out loud and tell us how they felt, how that went.
Yeah, so we're just keen to find out, you know, how you found that. I'm not sure if anyone's ever done anything like that before, but yeah, what were your initial thoughts? How did you find it? Did you feel it was a bit awkward? I can't actually see the chat, Max, just because I'm sharing, but if you have any feedback, let me know.
I'll let you know as soon as anything comes in. So who's going to tell us? Who wants to tell us? How did it go? How did it feel? Not one of the BT apprentices. Oh, we've got a couple of people said extremely uncomfortable. Definitely a bit awkward. A bit weird, to be honest. Again, awkward, weird.
That is very normal. It is, yeah, completely normal to feel that way. It does get better, I promise. I had to actually record a clip for our marketing team, and all I had to answer was one question, and the amount of takes that I did, I couldn't even get my introduction of who I am and my job title right for the first like 15 takes. So it is very normal to feel like So definitely practice makes perfect. And the good thing is, you know, most of us do have smartphones, so it is really easy to practice and get a bit better at this. There's lots of examples of interview questions online as well, so you could get a few questions and just do the full thing and get one of your friends, one of your peers to review it for you. No one really enjoys the video interviews, but they are definitely part of life right now. Definitely part of our process, interview process for apprentices. So yeah, it's really good to just get used to it, get used to being on video and answering those questions.
I think the worst bit of actually the video interview is seeing yourself. You don't see an interviewer, so you can't tell anybody's body language. You can't tell if you're answering it correctly. You don't get that little bit of feedback which you do when you're on the phone to somebody else, and you just see yourself. So I think that nervouses you a bit. So I just kind of block myself out on the video and just look at the phone right above it.
Yeah, that's a really good tip.
But that's a video interview where you record your answers, right? Because then you get given a question and then you go ahead and you record the answers. Yeah, that can be a bit awkward, but like we said, practice just gets better and better.
It does. It really, really does. But yeah, I think you know, in a face-to-face interview, when you're sat opposite someone, they're sort of reassuring you and giving you that body language and eye contact, and it sort of eggs you on a little bit. But yeah, when it's just a video, you kind of feel like you're talking to no one, so it is a little bit awkward sometimes.
Fair enough. I believe Ellie has set up. If we need the breakout rooms, Ellie has set them up.
Brilliant. So what to expect when it comes to a BT video interview? So the video interview is second or third stage in our application process. So some of you may be asked to do online tests, just depending on what apprenticeship you apply for. You might not be asked to do those. So yeah, the video interview is hosted through software provided by our partners. And normally we give you a 7-day week to complete it from the day that you receive your invite. And it's a pre-recorded video interview. They do give you a practice question. I'm not sure what they are, whether some of the apprentices on the call now might remember that, but there's only 5 questions, so it's not too extensive, and you can record yourself more than once, so hopefully that helps.
I remember the last question is always any questions, and I would always advise to have a question, or if you can't think of anything and your question's already been answered, this is more for like interview than a video interview, is that you've already answered my questions which I've written down, so it makes you feel like you've already prepared a bit more. So if you are applying for a job, you know, make sure you have got questions, or if you haven't, that can be your answer.
And if I can just chip in, it just shows that you're keen about the business, which is good, and you're actually interested about something. Yeah, it's just another way to impress as well and leave a good impression.
Yeah, definitely, I'd agree with that. And I think, you know, the beauty of doing these things from home is you can actually make notes. So you could write up a list of questions, because obviously your mind can go blank when you're on video. But you can write up a list of really good interview questions that you can go to afterwards. So yeah, that is an advantage of having it on video. Cool. So just to go through some hints and tips, and feel free if anyone else wants to add anything, but hints and tips for acing the interview. So think about your setup. This sounds really, really basic, but it really helps. I mean, we've been doing virtual assessment centres. Well, we started them last summer, and we've kind of started them again with a different platform in January, and the setup definitely helps, making sure you've tested your microphone, your camera angles even. I mean, I've got my laptop on a few boxes just because it is a little bit I just think it's a nicer view really than, you know, having it really low down. So yeah, just thinking about your setup really, and you're comfortable with it before you actually go into the video interview. The preparation is key. So really have a think about why you want to work at BT before you actually start with the video interview. That's really, really important, because some of the questions are likely to be around that. Think about why you've chosen that particular scheme. I think with our apprenticeship schemes, you are only allowed to apply for one. So you can only make one application to one scheme. So just make sure you've really thought through why you want to apply to that particular scheme. And like I said earlier, you know, you might not know what you want to do, and that's perfectly normal. I mean, I know I certainly didn't, but I think you've just got to think about what you enjoy doing, what you might be good at doing, and try and sort of, you know, relate it to those schemes that are out there. And there are quite a lot of different schemes. Don't panic. Try not to panic anyway. Think of it as a chat, not an interview. So yeah, just try and relax as much as you possibly can. Probably don't have too much caffeine, because I know caffeine can add to my nerves sometimes if I'm in a nervous situation. Try and breathe and take a pause before you answer. I think it can be quite common to try and rush your answers, but just relax and yeah, just breathe, take a pause. Get the assessor's attention. You know, it is about standing out from the crowd, I suppose. We do get lots of applicants coming through for some of the roles. Some are more popular than others, but it's all about, you know, trying to make that impact and get the assessor's attention. Certainly when we do our live assessment centres, sometimes we run them with sort of 10 candidates and 10 assessors. So it's always good to try and, you know, make that special impact on the day. Examples. You are asked to give examples during video interviews sometimes. You might have to give specific examples of where you've done certain things. And I know it's difficult when you are sort of early on and you are maybe still at school or in education to find those examples. But we do take examples from, you know, extracurricular activities, from projects, you know, even a part-time job if you've had one. This tip, we've said it before in the presentation, we'll say it again, just be yourself. I think you just need to relax and let your personality shine through, and definitely be yourself on the day. I'm not sure if anyone else has got anything they want to add on to those. Cool, should we move on? So we're just going to talk about some skills now. So these are the behaviours, if you like, that we look for on the day. So these behaviours we explore during the video interviews, during the assessment centres, and they are based on the BT Connected Leaders framework. So anyone that works at BT will be quite familiar with these. So customer champion, obviously BT is very customer focused, customer centric. So even if you're applying for a role that isn't customer services, we will still be looking at how you answer questions relating to customer champion. So that is really making sure that you understand customers' needs and challenges. And that you don't stop until BT creates a brilliant experience for them. Champions our customers in everything that they do. So some of the questions you'll get sort of during assessment days are related to being customer focused. So that is always a big one really here at BT. In some of the exercises that you might do at an assessment centre, we'll be looking at how you make bold decisions. So sometimes you get a lot of information thrown at you. So you might get, you know, a sort of case study or a bit of information about something hypothetical, and you use the right blend of data analysis, intuition and experience to break down those problems and reach the solutions. So you might be doing that on your own as part of a group in the assessment event. So yeah, bold decision maker is something we're looking for during our process. So solution focused, this is one that comes up sort of during the group exercise and also the individual exercises on the assessment centre. So always delivering to ambitious goals, outcomes and timelines, and managing to cut through the complexity and obstacles to get to the right ethical solution. So that does sound quite complicated. It does make more sense once you have all of the information in front of you. So always good to try and, you know, simplify things and get through that complexity that might appear initially, and you know, reach those solutions either on your own or within a group. Inspiring communicator, so you know, delivering those compelling messages to the audience that persuade, inspire and engage. Change agent, so that's identifying, creating and leading smooth business changes. adapting quickly and performing effectively even when there's ambiguity. So anyone that works at BT will recognise those wordings. So change agent is one of the competencies that we do look for at the assessment centres. Collaborative partner, understanding the agendas and needs of others alongside the needs of the business, breaking down the silos and working brilliantly with partners both within and outside of the organisation to deliver brilliant business results. So yeah, during the assessment events, we're always looking for how you collaborate with the other candidates on the assessment centre. Normally there's 4 exercises and 3 of those are individual exercises. One of those is a group exercise. And I guess this is really difficult virtually. This is where face-to-face assessment centres do make it a bit easier, because when you're in a group with a few people, I think it is more straightforward to work with them in partnership, because physically you can read off each other and you can show each other your bits of information, whereas virtually it's more difficult to get those signals from them. But yeah, it is about working with other people and thinking commercially. Obviously BT is in the private sector, it's a profit-making business. So during the assessment process, it's always good to see how someone can think quite commercially, understanding the wider market and commercial drivers, coming up with ideas, insights and propositions that benefit our business. So those are kind of the skills that we look for, really. So if anyone's got any questions or comments on those, happy to go through them. Okay, so I think we're going to have a discussion now. So just have a think about why you think that we look for these key behaviours, and I can always flick back to that slide again. And also, what ways can you think of to incorporate the key skills we're looking for into your video interview answers? So I guess if you want to just focus on the first one first, so maybe in the chat box, or if you want to sort of, if you want to speak out loud, that's absolutely fine. But why do you think we look for these key behaviours? I'll just put those on the screen again.
I'm keeping an eye on the chat box for answers.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, so feel free just to pop anything in the chat box.
Okay. First one we've got is there are indicators to how well that potential employee will integrate into the company.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, these are based on our connected leaders framework. So this is how we kind of assess our internal employees as well. So that's a really good answer.
What else have we got? Who else has got any ideas around this? It's important to see if the candidate has the ability to work well with others. That may be a major part of their job.
Definitely, yeah, I would say so. I think, a lot of the apprentice roles you will be working within quite a tight team. So yeah, it's always good to see that on the day.
Just a question for this discussion, in case people might find it a little bit easier. Do we want to go into the smaller breakout rooms? Because then it's easier for people to discuss in smaller groups. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you able to set that function up? I'm not sure if I can do that. But yeah, absolutely. However you would like to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can jump in here, Max. So I've got some breakout rooms set up, and I do agree sometimes it's a little bit intimidating to start to unmuting yourself. So let's do that. I'm all set up. You've got someone from BT and Pathway in each of those rooms. Any issues, I'm here for the whole rest of the session. So we'll go in for maybe 10 minutes and then feedback, maybe some answers to these questions. So I'll open those up now and I'll see you in your rooms.
Thank you.
Hey, Catherine, how did you get on in your room?
Yeah, no, it was all good. Great tips from Alicia, sharing her experience, which I think really helped with the students.
Great, and I think that's the last rooms trickling back in now. Yeah, so I can see Nick's room coming back in, and then Max is in a second, so we just wait for them to come back. Hi Max, how did you get on?
Hi, we're back. Oh, okay. We had some answers. Not going to lie, could have had a bit more communication. And I will say that remember that as you soften up during the day, contribute more, because this is only going to help you practice for when it does come to an assessment centre in real life. And later on, you'll hear from the apprentices and they'll tell you how useful it is to get it out now, get over the embarrassment and the shyness now, and just get it done. So yeah, but we had some good answers to a couple of things and some good examples. You want me to share them now?
Brilliant, yeah. And then I think it's just Nick to kind of give a bit of feedback on how your room got on, and then maybe back to Kate and we can give a bit of a roundup.
Yeah, we had yeah, sort of went through the pointers, had a few comments in there, talking about which sort of areas they were maybe surprised at that apprentices would have such a big role in, but that I think that's sort of a really positive side of it. Yeah, sort of the change agent and commercial thinker were sort of picked up on as really good areas for apprentices to have that say. Yeah, sort of similar to Max. Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity to ask some BT experts some great questions that you may have on the assessments and whatnot. So yeah, sort of the day goes on, I'm sure you get more and more comfortable. But yeah, it's good. It's a good little room.
When we looked at, sorry, I was just going to say, when we looked at some of the examples that we went through as well, one of the things that we discussed with Kate in my room is that when you look at these behaviors and you're looking at all of those, what we don't want is we don't want you to be daunted and think, oh my God, but I don't have all of those. It's not about having all of them. It's about what do you have and what can you demonstrate? You're not going to walk into an assessment centre in an early career stage and have every single one of those behaviors nailed on and you have brilliant examples for all of them. Okay, that's not reality, and we know that as early career recruiters. We would know that, and BT would know that as well. But what do you have? What can you bring to the table, and what examples are we going to use? So we said, didn't we, Kate, that you wouldn't be looking for everybody to have all of that, but you'd be looking to see what you can build on, right?
Okay, I think you're
on mute.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I think we said, sometimes people won't always flourish in a group environment. Some people might, their strengths might be in a group environment, but other people, really might excel on their own. And just last week we were doing assessment centres, and yeah, some people really sort of won the day back by excelling in the final exercise, whereas, the group exercise they might have, fell down slightly in. So definitely, we're not looking for people that are good at absolutely everything on the day. It's all about sort of demonstrating what your strengths are. Cool. Shall I continue on?
Yes, please.
Right, that's the end of the presentation. So we can have a further discussion now until we go into the next break, if you like.
I think we had some questions as well about.
We've got some questions.
And there's a couple of things, people asking questions. And actually, do you remember the question that we had in the previous session, Kate, that I want to get one of the apprentices to answer?
Yeah, sure.
Any of the apprentices, feel free to answer it. I don't know if you saw the question, but the question was basically, what is the advantage of doing a degree apprenticeship over going to university? So for those of you who are doing a degree apprenticeship and are here, who wants to answer that question? What's the advantage of doing that over going to university?
I'm happy to kick us off. I think where I'd always firstly start with is you've got to do what's right for you. What I would never tell you is go and do a degree apprenticeship over university, equally as I'd never tell you go to university and don't do a degree apprenticeship. So, you know, I'd never say one way or the other. I chose a degree apprenticeship as the perfect option for me. My best friend Alex went to study quantity surveying at the University of Portsmouth. He could have done it on a degree apprenticeship. He chose to go to university full time, and that was absolutely the right thing for him to do. What I've definitely benefited from, and the reason why I chose it, was first and foremost, I didn't fancy the £9,250 a year. I didn't quite, maybe if it was a little bit cheaper, maybe if it was kind of £3,000 a year, I may have considered it. But it was above my kind of threshold, I think, for what I was kind of ready to pay. Because ultimately, my thought process was, I know a lot of people say, you know, you might never pay it off, it might get written off after 30 years. But my idea is that if you go to university, you should be earning enough to be able to pay it off. So you will, at some point in your life, pay off the entire of your student loan. That was my point of view. If you've gone to university, you know, you should be able to start paying it back. So yeah, I chose the degree apprenticeship on the basis that it was 4 years worth of work experience, 4 years worth of pay. I'd still end up having a degree and the experience, and wouldn't pay a penny for the degree. And I think that's really, in a nutshell, where it was. But alongside that, I've had the benefit of networking with people, meeting lots of people who I'm sure will be part of my career going forward. And you know, you're 4 steps ahead, if you like. You know, I hope that by the time I finish my apprenticeship, I'll be looking at my next steps, whether I want to specialize or whether I want to look at management. And I've already started a few conversations about that. But where if you're coming out of university, you would have only just landed at that new organization, and you would have been starting from meeting everyone and networking and really settling in. So I think that's my personal experience. Again, lots of people are different, doesn't work for everyone. I know people who have gone to university, dropped out of university and done an apprenticeship. Equally, I know people who've done an apprenticeship, dropped off the apprenticeship and gone to university full time. So it's all your way. But what I definitely would say is that if you do drop out and change your mind, that doesn't matter. There's plenty of people on my apprenticeship scheme now who are not, who have not come straight from A-level or straight from college. They've had a few years thinking, what do I do? That doesn't set you back at all. Don't worry about that at all. So you'll find the right route eventually, I promise you that. But don't worry if it's not quite right in front of you.
And I think Tom made a very valid point. When you come to the decision as to whether it's an apprenticeship or university, think about the benefits and the pros and cons for both, because for some people, university is absolutely the way to go. For some, it's not, and maybe a degree apprenticeship is the other way. But what we want you to understand is the fact that you have an amazing opportunity to be able to go and do something like a degree apprenticeship at a company like BT, and you can see the advantages that you're getting from all of it. And can I, before we go to our break, because we've got a 15-minute break before we do the next exercise, so you can all take go and get a glass of water, a bit of fresh air, and come back at 11:45. But before we do that, can I ask any of the apprentices that went through this process, did you find it awkward doing the assessment centres? Did you find it difficult? And how did you get over that shyness or worry or that little bit when you freeze when you have to contribute in things like this? How did you get over it? Any of the apprentices want to answer that?
I'm happy to field that one. Yeah, no, it's obviously a good question. There's a few techniques that you pick up. I think this is just a public speaking technique as well. When you get a particularly tricky question, one of the first things you should do, and it does buy you 5 seconds, it might not sound like a lot, but would be to basically thank the person who said it. So that's a really engaging question, Max, and that in your head allows you sort of 3 or 5 seconds to begin thinking about it. Again, just another general technique. I feel like people are always comfortable talking about themselves, and if you can get the conversation round, you know, on the topic of the other person, again, you know, that you'll get sort of more of an open conversation. On the day as well, just turn up on time, so you're not rushing around if it is an in-person assessment centre. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's all from my personal perspective, but again, different things will work for different people.
Absolutely. And like we said, we're going to get a chance to practice a little bit more, but it's good to practice it, because once you get into it, and it's not just going to be BT that uses an assessment center or uses video interviews, it's going to be the majority of apprenticeships you go for, and even graduate roles as well. So you are going to have to get used to them. What I would say now is that we've got a 15-minute break between now and 11:45. So I want you guys to go away. Just keep your cameras off and your microphones on mute. Don't come out the session, because we're going to be in the same session for the next exercise. And the next exercise is going to take us from 11:45 and it goes all the way through to 1 o'clock. So it's a bit of a longer one. It's more involved. So take a break now, and we'll be back at 11:45. Don't log out, just mute and turn your video off, and we'll see you back then. Thank you.